In 1978, Professor Watkins was appointed as surgical consultant to the Formula One Constructors Association, the body representing Grand Prix racing in the World Championship Formula One races of the Fédération du Sport de l'Automobile, FIA, the world governing body for international motorsport. His presence was required at all Grand Prix events from June 1978 until November 2004, a total of 423 races. His role was to raise the standards of medical response at the circuits and to provide specialist medical advice in the case of injury. The following statistics relate to the incidence of injury and mortality rate are between May 1978 and June 2006, during which time for 50 races have been run. In the years up to 1970, fire after a crash was a serious hazard. In 1970, safety bladder fuel tanks were introduced. In 1972, safety foam in the fuel tanks, and, in 1974, self-seal breakaway coupling for fuel lines became mandatory. Since May 1978, there has been only one moderate burn injury to the torso and 2 minor burns to the hands in one case because of defective gloves and to the posterior neck skin in another driver who took his helmet off, with the rear-placed engine on fire. The table shows the incidence through the years, with a significant reduction in severe leg fractures after the introduction of the carbon fiber chassis, reinforcement of the survival cell to the feet in 1981 and a mandatory frontal crash test in 1985. Injury to the spine has dropped markedly with better body and neck restraint systems and the introduction of foam head and neck protection to cap the high cockpit sides introduced in 1996. These measures have protected against severe head injury and reduced the incidence of concussion. The table shows the mortality rates, there being no fatalities since May 1994 when, as was noted earlier, 2 drivers were lost in one weekend. During the 28 years and 450 races and much official practice and in addition, private testing, there have been 3 deaths in races, 2 in official practice and 2 in private testing. This compares favorably with the mortality in rugby, 14 deaths in 25 years and approximately 150 spinal cord injuries with paralysis. Reference has been made earlier to the loss of 2 drivers in one weekend in May 1994. Before this loss, since June 1982, there had been no fatal accident in virtually 12 years. However, in 1992, one driver had a compression fracture of the 5th cervical vertebra, and early in 1994, 2 drivers had compression fractures of again the 5th cervical vertebra. Subsequently, in May 1994, the 2 drivers killed died from head injury, one of whom also had a spinal fracture and chest injuries. At the following race in May, in practice, a driver sustained a decerebrating brain injury from striking his head against a protective barrier but made a good recovery eventually. In the same period, 2 other drivers had concussion from striking their heads on the steering wheel. These events are summarized in the table.